Hi everyone, my name is Matt Williams. I'm the Access Fellow and a tutor in politics here at Jesus College at the University of Oxford. I'm going to take you on a bit of a walk around the city so that we can discuss one of the foundational matters in any academic discipline, which is concepts. These are the sort of shared terms, the shared vocabulary that we use as academics and as scholars to try and make sense of the world around us. Now, the reason for walking around the city is because sometimes these buildings are fairly quickly described as beautiful. But what does that mean as a particular conceptual device? What is beauty? Would it be possible, for example, to say that the buildings of Oxford University are X times more beautiful than the buildings of any other university or any other city? If we can't quantify beauty, is it a very useful concept, or is it completely subjective? Is it, as the old saying goes, the case that beauty is simply in the eye of the beholder and it can't be quantified, it can't be operationalized in any useful sense? If that's the case, then concepts like beauty aren't very foundational for an academic discussion. They are foundations of sand and can't be utilized to come up with some sort of shared understanding of the universe as we might wish to do. Now, this is a problem for all sorts of disciplines in academia. So, for example, my own discipline, politics, will grapple with concepts like democracy. What is democracy? What does it mean for a country to be democratic? Some would argue that there are certain procedural requirements, that you have to have elections, you have to have a free media, you have to have independent judges. But others would say that you need something a little bit more substantial than that. It's not sufficient to simply have those procedural safeguards to declare your nation as democratic. You also need to have a feeling. You've got to have a performative aspect to democracy, that the demos, the public, the citizenry have to trust each other. They have to believe in the institutions of democracy. There are measures for democracy and we can quantify it, but those quantifications are absolutely contested. There is no absolute clarified vision of what democracy is or what it entails. It's perpetually disputed. So we need to be really careful with how we use concepts, how we understand our shared vocabulary. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's only really a problem for social sciences, for humanities. This is not an issue for natural sciences. But I would contest that as well. I mean, let's think about what it means to have a successful therapeutic outcome in medicine. What does that mean? For many people, for many doctors, there will be different outcomes that will be desirable. And so trying to pin down some sort of specifics isn't very easy. In psychology, what does it mean to have a normal psychology? What does it take for someone to be healthy? What does it mean to be obese? These concepts are foundationally important, and yet they're also not terribly easy to determine, to pin down. So that could be potentially a big problem. Well, you may be thinking, well, fine, but subjects like mathematics have a lot more conceptual clarity to them, that of all the academic disciplines, they are perhaps the most disciplined, which would be a reasonable supposition to make. Mathematics certainly does have a degree of consensus with regards to the methods and the concepts that are used. But even in mathematics, at the outer reaches, at the advanced level of academic work, there will be disputes over specific types of notation or particular proofs or particular ways of conducting various transformations using numbers. So even mathematics is not immune from some of the conceptual fuzziness that I've described in social sciences, in humanities, in medicine, in other natural sciences. Now, what's the upshot of all of this? Why is this in any sense relevant to you and your considerations of studying at a university like this? Well, it means that you are actually free. You are liberated from the requirements of adhering to some sort of shared dictionary, that you are the dictionary. You have to determine how you would like to define concepts and terms. That it is frankly not good enough, if you're applying to a university like Oxford, simply to draw on an authority like a dictionary and claim that as the mandate for how you're supposed to use your terms. These are your terms. You have to work out what you think they are. So if you're applying for a degree like psychology, and someone asks you, what does it mean to be normal? You can't look for a dictionary definition of that term. You have to think about it for yourself. If someone asks you in medicine, what is the point at which a patient has died, you have to think through the conceptual confusion around the notion of physiological death. You, in short, have to think for yourself. It's the only way you're going to resolve these problems. And that is how we progress academia, is by constantly challenging, constantly questioning our use of shared language. And sometimes that can be a little bit scary for new entrants into a university like this. But I'd like you to think of it more as a liberation, that it's up to you to determine how to use your words. People can't tell you precisely what certain ideas mean, and therefore it's completely up to you to decide whether or not you think these buildings are in fact beautiful, or potentially ugly, inauthentic, derivative, crass, over the top, gauche, whatever you like. You decide, okay? But for goodness sake, think for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. All the best. Bye now.